Hey everyone, welcome back to The Evil Within. This is an Akumu, no upgrade, no locker, no flashbolt, no freeze bolt playthrough on the PS4, and we're on the final chapter, chapter 15. This was a long, hard fought battle, but I'm finally here at the end of the game, and this chapter is actually a lot shorter than you might think it is. So this chapter starts with a good 10 to 15 minutes of just walking around. Like there's a bunch of empty environments that have nothing in them. So I'm going to edit out most of it because I would seriously be sitting here talking for 15 minutes without anything to say. So I'm just going to kind of skip through it. You start in the save room area, and then you come back here to Beacon where the game starts, and then you end up to a couple other areas you've already been to, and then you just keep running through more areas, and I don't understand why any of it's here, but it takes a good, even like rushing through it takes 10 minutes. Like I was just sprinting through these areas and it still took me over 10 minutes for some reason. So I'm just going to kind of jump around here. As you can see, this is an area from chapter 1. And then I'm just going to cut out some of the other parts because they're just not interesting and there's nothing to talk about. So I'm just going to go right to the fight. This chapter really only has one fight before the final boss, and it's multiple waves. So there's enemies that spawn on both sides here. I'm going to go around and pick some stuff up. There's going to be enemies with guns and the SWAT enemies, as well as fatties. So every kind of haunted really is going to appear here. And again, just like the last chapter, I don't want to say I had checked out, but I had kind of checked out at this point. So I had messed some things up here. I don't do some of the things I wanted to do, but that's okay. I'm going to utilize this ledge here because, like I said in past videos, you want to take advantage of enemies climbing over stuff, vaulting over things, any kind of animation like that, take advantage of it. I just took advantage of that for shotgun blasts into match throws. Those two enemies had guns, as you could see, so especially with the enemies with guns, you want to get them to climb on stuff or get them to trip, get them to just be preoccupied with something, have them climb up a ladder, something. That way you know you're safe. And then when they're on the ladder, on the ledge, you can knock them down safely, and then that gives you even more of a safety net there. So here I am, just kind of like kiting enemies around, trying to get them all into one spot. As you can see here, I got cornered. And then that SWAT enemy, he's not shooting me, which I'm really happy about. So explosive bolt and shotgun blast take care of most of this part for me. Luckily I got 3 enemies there. I had a lot of shotgun ammo going into this, which I say a lot, but it was only 8 rounds, so it wasn't very many. But luckily it was enough to take care of this. This first round is probably the hardest part, I think, because there's quite a few enemies with guns and they're just so annoying at this part. Luckily they don't shoot you until they get near you, in my experience with this part. And here I am missing a bunch. I don't want to use all my ammo on this fatty because there's another wave of enemies coming with a doppelganger, with a sadist at the end. So I was trying not to just use everything I had on him. So here I am just going around collecting stuff again, and then a doppelganger is going to spawn in the middle of the arena. And this part's kind of ridiculous because his grab move, it just initiates before you even get a chance to do anything. So what I like to do is shoot a shock bolt in the center. Even if he walks away from it, he's going to run back into it. So if you start up on this ledge, you can kind of lure the grab to come to you and then jump off the ledge, and it's going to lag behind you. So that's what I did right there. Usually you can hit him with the shock bolt before he runs away, but I didn't get it off in time, but he ran back into it. He usually always will. There's going to be another wave of enemies that come out before the sadist comes out. And the game's going to pull kind of what it did in Chapter 13 with those enemies with the explosive bolts all over them. Me just, like, it's a really novel thing to do, and it's really funny. The same thing's going to happen here with the sadist. Just another trick the game's going to pull on you before it ends. So again, enemies are going to pour out of the left and right sides, and they're also going to come from back here, which I forgot about. Luckily, they didn't grab me, so again, I'm going to use explosive bolt because I don't want to use all of my trap parts since explosive bolts take less than the shock bolt. I figured I'd make that and get an explosion, get some knockdown and stun. That guy has a crossbow, so I wanted to take care of him. I didn't mind using a match just on him because, again, the crossbow, if you get stuck with an explosive bolt, you're done. There's nothing you can do. So again, taking advantage of the ledge, even the harpoon bolt, I knocked that enemy into these other ones. And look at this, 4 enemies, all with one match. Can't complain about that. And then the sadist is going to pop out of here with an RPG, which is kind of hilarious. I don't know why, it just makes me laugh. But he's going to shoot at you until you damage him enough, and then he's gonna do his usual thing where he's gonna pull out a chainsaw and chase you. And he's really aggressive. Like he can keep your pace when you're sprinting away from him. So I recommend taking care of these other enemies first, because you're not going to be able to concentrate on these other enemies or concentrate on him if everyone's out in this arena. So just keep moving at this part. Or there's a couple safe spots, like if you go into these corners, he can't hit you with the rockets, but then you corner yourself. So if you feel more comfortable moving, you can, but if there's not a lot of enemies, it's probably not a bad idea to just stay in a safe spot. And here, I think an enemy gets caught on. Yeah, she was stuck over here. Use the torch. I could have used the torch on the sadist again, since the fire effect on him stuns him for such a good amount of time. I could have caught him on fire, used that to get away, and then set up some traps for some more damage, but I didn't do that. Those female haunted are so unpredictable, and they move so sporadically, and they'll crouch under your shots and all this other nonsense. I just wanted to kill her and get it over with. So I'm just sniping him. If you're doing like a normal run, or even a run where you have things fully upgraded, you can just put explosive bolts there, and when he spawns, he'll just step on them and basically die. So that's something to keep in mind, and I'm probably going to do that on my next playthrough. But right now I'm kind of scrambling to get some stuff made to kill him. I want to do explosive bolts for the damage and for the stagger, but look, he's so quick. I'm not even getting a good chance to shoot him. And again, the explosive bolt, the weakness is that enemies are going to, if they run towards you and it's stuck to them, it's going to hit you. And if anything hits me, I'm going to die in this difficulty, so I'm having a really hard time getting this off. So really what I could have done, like I just talked about earlier, was I could have vaulted over that ledge over there, and then while he was climbing over the ledge, I could have shot him with the explosive bolt, and then by the time he got to the other side, it would have exploded. He would have been stunned. I could have hit him with maybe a harpoon bolt or two, something like that, but I didn't do that. Again, this is not my best performance, so I'm kind of just running around, I'm looking for more ammo. I knew there was more around here. I could have easily just pulled out the Magnum and shot him, but I want that for the final boss. I always, in every playthrough I save at least 4 Magnum rounds for the final boss. And I did the same thing here. There's a harpoon bolt sticking out of that little barrier there. I could have grabbed while I was running from him. Had I just sprinted over here, I could have grabbed it right there while he was stunned and could have used it on him, but I'm just using the handgun because I'm not going to use the handgun on the final boss. There's really no point. The final boss arena has a ton of stuff lying around, so there's really no use in using the handgun. You'll have stuff for every other weapon. So I'm going to get his gel. I have a ton of green gel, and I'm going to spend it all shortly as soon as I start my next playthrough, and it's going to be great. So I'm going to run around here. I'm just trying to find anything I missed, pick up some green gel. So that's really the only fight in this whole chapter. It is a tough fight, and I'd say it's a good final arena. It doesn't overstay its welcome. One thing about some games is that they'll do the big final battle, and it's just so drawn out and so monotonous, and it's it really kind of puts a bad, kind of puts a sour taste in your mouth. And I think that fight was the perfect amount of enemies, and it's hard, so I mean, really can't complain about that. But the game ends on this little weird thing. There's an enemy with a stick of dynamite and one with a sniper rifle, and there's one on the other side as well. So what I'm trying to do is shoot the guy with the dynamite and space out my handgun shots so that the dynamite just blows up. But then I realized that I had harpoon bolts, and I think I had sniper rifle ammo, maybe I don't. But I at least had a harpoon bolt, so I could have just used that. Well, I have 2 harpoon bolts, so really all I needed to do was use one on this side and one on the other on the dynamite guy after he lit it, and it would have killed the snipers as well. So here I'm just making sure that the dynamite killed them, and it did. So that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to use the harpoon on the guy with the dynamite. He's going to light it. He's going to be crumpled, long knockdown. It's going to blow up, and it's going to kill the sniper. That's the easiest way to do that part. If you don't have sniper rounds after that last battle, or if you don't have explosive bolts, you can just make 2 quick harpoon bolts. Just shoot the dynamite guys. They're going to be down so long, their dynamite's going to blow up. When you go up here and you go to either side of this, there's ammo on both sides. So 4 shotgun shells, 5 handgun bullets, and then there is some sniper rounds as well. So that's a really good amount. And then there's going to be more ammo and more trap parts that you can all pick up before the final boss starts. So there's really no way you're not going to have enough ammo for the final boss. I mean, this is a no upgrade run, and I still had enough, so you should be okay. So the final boss is 2 keepers. So basically, it's the fight with the keeper in Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Now you have to fight 2 of them at once. And this part is has a lot of environmental stuff in it. This room is going to fill up with water, and then there's levers you can pull to kind of trap them in place. I don't utilize any of that. Again, I know how this fight goes, and I know exactly how I want to use my weapons, so I didn't even bother doing that. If you can just DPS race this fight, and then you don't have to worry about going back into that room with the water and all this other stuff. They do a lot of like the charging attack during this fight. I don't know if it's specifically programmed that way because you're in these long hallways and they're meant to kind of trap you, but they're very aggressive. They definitely feel a lot more aggressive in this battle than they do in the other 2. So again, I think it's easier to just kill them right away. Again, this is the same kind of thing. You can lay down explosive bolts or whatever at their spawn points and kind of just screw them over as soon as they appear. But since my explosive bolts aren't that great and I can't hold that many, I'm not going to do that. Also, just like in that last fight and just like in the last chapter, I'm going to screw a few things up here. But again, I was going to start the fight over to do what I want to do and have it look cooler, but I just said, whatever, it doesn't matter. I get to show you guys that even when you screw up, you can still win these fights as hard as they are. So I wanted to stick it to him so he was going to get staggered, and that didn't happen. But I do hit him with that one, but it doesn't stagger him because I think he started his next animation. And I had magnum ammo. I'm just going to unload it all into them. The sniper I'm also going to use next. Now, the shock bolt, like I always talk about, he's going to come right out of this animation. So I turn the corner so that I had some space even with his charge. And again, I'm going to go down the hallway, get some more space, just keep walking backwards. I knew that he was getting low on health and I was going to kill him in time. I'm going to switch to the harpoon bolt before I use a shock bolt because he wasn't in an animation. I knew that I could maybe stop him, which I did. He took a step back, I stopped him, and I knew that if he was going to charge, I could have used another shock bolt, but I didn't need to. That 1 sniper round was enough to kill him. So beat the final boss. Still have 4 sniper rounds left. And enough trap parts to make probably 3 or 4 bolts. So that's pretty good. If your magnum is upgraded, you can just absolutely destroy both of them. Freeze bolts again. If you want to use freeze bolts to stop them dead in their tracks, you can do that. This part is this weird part in the game where they wanted to say, hey, remember we have traps in this game, and you're like, yeah, I'm aware, I've been seeing them the whole game. So this last part of the game is you getting through this little corridor full of traps. I don't really understand it, but here it is. So that keeper fight, when I first played this game, I thought it was a little lame that the final boss was a boss we'd already fought twice, but now there's 2 of them. I was like, wow, that's really lame. That's the best thing you could come up with. But it's one of those things where it's like, again, quality over quantity. A lot of games, and I mean a lot of games, have bad final bosses, in my opinion. Like, they're either not real final bosses, they're scripted, they're too easy, they're something. But I think that fight's great. It has a cool arena where you can utilize the environment. There's traps against the player that also kind of work against the enemy too. The enemy itself, like the keeper itself, is a very deep enemy. So I think fighting two of them, I mean, at that point, I think that just makes it more deep and more challenging. Again, even stuff you can utilize against the haunted, you can use against them. Like there's ledges for them to climb up, which I don't believe are in either of the other two fights. So, again, it seems lame that you just fight an enemy that you fought before as the final boss, but I think it works really well. Same thing in Vanquish, like the final boss in that is two of a boss you fought early in the game, but in my opinion, that's just the best boss fight in the entire world. I've never fought a boss that intense ever in my life. So you can do it well. It doesn't have to be different. There doesn't have to be variety for the sake of it, I suppose. I mean, you can do a simple, I guess a variant of a repeat and do it well. But anyway, this is the final chase thing. Then there's going to be one of those scripted parts that I don't really consider the final boss because it's just like this dumb shooting gallery section. But first we have some more walking. So I'm not going to actually commentate the rest of this video because the rest of it's just walking, and then you see the final form of whatever, and then you shoot him, and then you keep shooting him on something else, and then you shoot him again, and then he dies, and the game ends. Okay, great. That's not the real final boss. I don't even know why that's here, but it's there. It's like the last chapter in the second game where you're like doing that hallway shootout, and I'm like, why did you put this here? Like, the final boss in that game also, I think, is pretty good, but again, I don't know why they stuck that in the last chapter. But anyway, I'm going to take these last couple minutes to just kind of reflect on this run, just kind of talk about things, talk about what I thought of the whole experience and everything. So basically, I got back into this game a few months ago, and I played it on Nightmare, and it was a lot better than I remember it being, and I always thought this game was, like, awesome. But, like, I played it on Nightmare, and I was like, man, this game is seriously, like, up there for me in terms of being, like, one of the better action games, period, which most people wouldn't think of this when they think of best action games. I mean, most people don't even like this game, from what I can tell, which I think is really strange. But then I played on Akumu again. I had done Akumu runs in the past. I played on Akumu, and then I played a no upgrade run on Akumu, and then I did another one without opening any lockers. And then I did a run where I kind of just derped around and like used my upgraded stuff, all that. And I was actually going to make a video about this game, one of those kind of analysis videos where it would be super long. It would just be one super long video where I would break down the mechanics and stuff. But I was writing the script, and I recorded it and all this stuff, and it just didn't feel right to me or something. So I decided if I played through the game under a really harsh, strict condition, I could really, really show everyone like what it is about this game that's so good. And then if I explained it in detail, then I could really get it across, because even that script I wrote, which took me about 50 minutes to get through, I was looking at it and then playing through this run again. I'm like, there's so much stuff I didn't even cover, and so much stuff I couldn't convey in a scripted thing like that. So playing this again like this and talking about it, I mean, this has been probably, the most in-depth thing I've ever done with a video game. I've done a lot of, like, hard modes in games. Like, I've beaten Vanquish on God Hard. I've beaten every Metal Gear Solid on the hardest difficulty. I got big boss runs in all of those games. I've done Resident Evil 4 knife run. I've done all kinds of stuff. Not to say I'm like some god. I've just, I've played video games my whole life, so I'm used to playing like hard stuff, and I enjoy challenging games, so that's what I do. But this was the run. This is the most in-depth, like, most difficult run I've ever done. I've never had a run in a game where I've had to analyze everything about what I'm doing so intensely. Like, everything that I'm saying in these commentaries, I didn't do this on any level on any other game I've ever played. Even ones I've played to death, like Metal Gear Solid, which I've played more than any other series. I couldn't even talk about those games as much as I'm talking about this game. And I think that just kind of goes to show how special and just how good this game is. And I do really think that it is one of, if not the best action games I think I've ever played in my life. But I'll go over that more in another video. I'm thinking I'm going to make another video talking about my thoughts about this whole run in this game. But that's the game. That's The Evil Within, Akumu, no upgrades or lockers, no flash or freeze bolts on the PS4. I hope you guys like this series. I'm going to be playing through this again, but it's going to be a more edited kind of kill everything run just for fun. So, hope you guys liked it. I'll see you next time.